It is time to talk about the NBA trade deadline. It actually picked up that last week or so of the deadline, and I actually want to start with, which is funny. I want to start with the worst team in the league because I like tanks, guys. Sometimes some tanks are, it's pretty obvious, pretty glorious how teams are purposefully tanking and
Tank Bowl.
how blatant it is as we play the NBA on NBC. Uh, uh, a theme song behind that, if anybody's seen Urinating Tree. But I want to start with the New York Knicks because it looks like they have made the moves to position themselves to have a lot of cap space to sign a couple of max free agents, and they are, of course, in the running for the number one pick in the draft, which could be Zion Williamson, who could, if they do get that, could entice some players to play in New York City. Madison Square Garden is still a pretty nice place to play if you can handle the pressure. I like what the Knicks have done. They have been terrible for so long, and why not do this? Even if they struck out, which would be funny, because as a Heat fan, it would it'd just be perfect for James Dolan to just strike out completely with that team in this offseason. I still think the Knicks are doing what they should be doing and bringing up break. Obviously, they lost Kristaps Porzingis. They turned him off to Dallas to free up the space. Also, Tim Hardaway Jr. is gone. They signed him for a lot of money this past season, starting for the season, and he's still a pretty good point guard. Not the best point guard out there, but he was serviceable for his new team. But I do like what the Knicks have done, is positioning themselves to get one of these max guys. Kevin Durant, even though who knows where he's going to go. So, Charles, what do you think? What do you think about what the Knicks did? Do you agree with it?
All right. So I feel like I got to do it systematically because so much of what the Knicks lead to what so much of the Mavericks did that I like a lot, but it also affects the whole Anthony Davis conversation. I know Cesar's not here, but it's going to all lead to that point at some time in the conversation. But for the Knicks, it's a trade that works. And the reason why it's a trade that works is because they were bad with the guys they had on that roster.
Right.
And just trade away. Like, it's not even bad. Atrocious, pathetic, non-competitive.
Yeah. What do you got? What do you got to lose, right?
Exactly. You're shedding the contracts of Hardaway Jr., Courtney Lee. Trey Burke was on a cheap contract anyway. Remember, this was a guy who was floating around from his day in Utah when he wasn't doing anything. And then Kristaps Porzingis, he's not playing, and they didn't want to re-sign him. And he's kind of – all right, so this is always hard about being a respectable fan, is that you don't know the guy state of mind, you know where we're coming from. But I always kind of thought he felt like a prima donna a little bit. Because his brother's his agent. He's like, I'm not happy with what they're doing. I'm like, well, play a full season, and then you can have a determination of whether or not you can put that input in there. Like, he's got skills, and he's probably, if he can stay healthy, it's going to mesh very well with Luka and the few other guys that they got in Dallas. But they did what they had to do. I think they also have the coach that they want in Dave Fizdale, bringing it back to Miami. You know, he's going to be more akin to the Brett Brown situation as opposed to the coach that they had prior, the former Jeff Hornacek,
right?
Where he was just on a fringe thing. This is a fully committed move by Steve Perry, by James Dolan. And look, it's not as if you got trashed with a trade. They traded everybody, and then Dennis Smith Jr. has already kind of shown his value. He had 2 games of 20-plus points after he got traded. He seems more comfortable. He seems more fluid. You got DeAndre Jordan. That's going to expire. Wesley Matthews already optioned out. But you also got 2 future first-round picks. And whether or not there's something that qualifies as being a top lottery pick or just a pick, it's still it's an arsenal. It's a weapon to use. That's how the Celtics and the Sixers were able to kind of build the teams that they have by kind of managing around all these picks from trading guys that were great players.
Right.
Because it's hypocritical because it's New York who does it. So the New York fans are like, oh, this is horrible. But yet Boston was like, oh, hey, the two guys that we love with Garnett and Pierce, we're going to trade away because we know they're not going to do it for us. And let's just be bad that 1 year.
Right. And I don't see how any Knicks fan could see this as a bad thing because, like, I get it. I get Kristaps was your guy. But, I mean, you guys hated the pick when he was drafted. It was the one thing Phil Jackson actually did right. But he wasn't getting it done. He kept getting injured. He obviously probably didn't want to be there anymore, with just how things were going. And really, the Knicks have nothing to lose. If they strike out on getting the number 1 draft pick, that's going to suck for them. And they could strike out on Durant and Kyrie and everybody else, but they'll just be back to where they are, and they'll try and get the number 1 draft pick next season. And this is it. This is what they got to do. Really, maybe they might develop some players. Maybe their G League team brings out some talent for them to transfer over to the NBA. But the Knicks have been in this sort of spiral for so long. The Knicks have tried everything. They tried signing big money free agents. I think what really killed them was the Carmelo Anthony trade, the first one. Now waiting for him to hit free agency rather than just trading pieces away for him. But the Knicks have tried everything they can with the rosters, with different rosters. Their best season was that 2012-13 season, I think.
When they were the second round, or they were the second seed.
And they lost. They lost to the Pacers in the semis.
Yeah, that was after Linsanity got injured.
Right. That was their best season in the past 20 years now. So why not? Why not do this? I commend them for doing it. I think Fizdale also probably just wants the roster that he wants around him. Hey, man, he can, if anything, mold these guys and coach them up and see what happens. There's really nowhere to go but up.
And he's going to get a fair shake, too. This is not going to be the James Dolan effect where it's like, all right, Derek Fisher, you're useless. Jeff Hornacek, you're useless. Mike Woodson, you're useless.
Right.
Fizdale somehow sold management. Be like, look, if the storm is a chaos and it's all going to hell, I'm the guy that can fix. I can right your ship. I am your Jack Sparrow. I'm used to it. And because he got a short end of the stick in Memphis. I'll say it right now.
He lost the players. And it's hard for a rookie coach to come in there and be like, hey, and tell Marc Gasol and those guys what to do. But he's in a great situation for New York. They got nothing to lose. They're at the bottom. Why not?
I think they anticipate too that for New York Knicks fans, the two of them that I have, they told me like, there's no way we're going to get Durant, but if we get him, that's just the additional prize because you can play around with a lot of stuff there. I mean, it's New York and guys still want to get paid.
Right.
It's just also kind of, it's a soft market a little bit because there's a lot of guys who are going to come out and you're going to test the waters. Like, you don't know if Clay is going to resign, but if Clay does, is he a guy that you want to pay as a top guy on a team, or is he that great because he was a contributor to Steph and to everybody else?
Yeah, New York has its positives. Playing in the Eastern Conference is great because, look at the bottom 6 of the bottom 6, 7, 8 seeds. The Miami Heat are struggling to stay in 9th place, for God's sake. So the Knicks, just having one good play, just having Zion Williamson may actually shoot them up to at least that 10 seed or whatever and be in the mix for that 8th seed. So good on the Knicks. I guess the other winner would be the LA Clippers, who are also in this mix of, hey, we could sign one of these big guys to come on down to the other side of LA, the other across the hallway from the Lakers locker room, which it might even dig into LeBron's side if the Clippers were able to pull off signing Kawhi or Kevin Durant or somebody like that. The Clippers are in a great position. They got a good team. They'll have the cap space. They have Doc Rivers as a good coach. I'm liking what they're doing. They've positioned themselves pretty well.
Yeah, but They had a good trade out. I mean, you sent Tobias Harris to Philly to get from there. But there's two other teams that really stuck out. I said, yes, I absolutely love this. They were not one of them.
Right.
But I understand where they're coming from.
I mean, they got 2 first-round picks, and they can obviously use that as trade bait.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. It works out pretty well for them, and it's a soft reboot. It's a season that said, listen, do we want to struggle for a 6th, 7th, 8th seed and keep on a guy who we think is not really going to be worth the future, or do we trust our coach, very akin to what's going on in New York, and say, hey, we trust his development, we trust the moves that establishments are going to make and management's going to make, let's go for it, because we know Kawhi is not signing Toronto. They can win a championship. He's not going to resign. And it's an easy pitch. Kawhi seems like a very proud guy. You say, do you want to be LeBron's, sidekick, or do you want to be your own Batman? And poof, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And what we got dudes and we got assets, and we'll find you guys. You want shooters, we got shooters. You want a big guy in the post, we got that guy for you. It's gonna happen, and it's there. But the moves by the Knicks stood out. The moves by the Mavs stood out because of what they got out of it.
Right.
Because Tim Hardaway Jr. he's a good 6th man, good starter if you need him, but he's still
he's a serviceable starting point guard.
Yeah, and the thing is, Dallas needed it because they were running with Smith Jr., who wasn't doing anything. Luka was doing everything. DeAndre wasn't really doing anything. He had stuck legs on the paint when people were crossing by him. Wes Matthews I like as a player, but he was basically at the end of the contract they had paid him for, and okay, you give away, from their perspective, you're giving away 2 first-round picks, but, it could be a crapshoot because you don't know if it's lottery protected or not. You don't know if it's going to be a top 10 pick. You go from there. But the other team that I said, man, you're talking about going for a win now was Milwaukee, getting Mirotic.
Right.
Because, you gave up a little bit. I'm trying to see exactly what they got.
I mean, that's why I have our logo and their colors, because I was very happy with what they did. I'm looking here. They only sent 4 second-round picks. That was it.
Yeah.
That's all they needed to use. That was brilliant. Not even a first round. I mean,
it's so good.
Yeah.
So good because he's a big man who can shoot the 3 and also play a little bit of defense. He's a little slow at times, but it's a perfect change of pace player on your second unit, or in case somebody gets injured, you can utilize him. Because look what he did for New Orleans last year because I'll say Giannis and Anthony Davis have a very similar game, at certain points, not completely comparable, but they're big men who can kind of do a little bit of everything and shoot and facilitate. Mirotic thrived when Boogie went down. They haven't been a good year, but that's because, the coaching hasn't been great. My whole perspective was Alvin Gentry really held back the team.
Right.
And the injuries do come up, but it's I can't even say it's a win now because Milwaukee has looked like the best team in the East throughout the season, and they probably had, after going competitively against Toronto, they probably were the alternative.
I would say it is a win now in some sense because a lot of their good players next summer are going to be free agents. So this is probably
Middleton, right?
Yeah. So this is probably a good chance for them. One, to showcase to these guys, hey, we're in it to win it for the next, not just this season, not just next season. Hey, we want to be 3-4 years down the line, 5 years maybe, be like the Warriors. And hey, we drafted you guys. We can afford to pay you guys. We have this brand new arena, all these new facilities. We can bring in guys. Look what we did. We got Mirotic. I mean, we are now an elite NBA organization in Milwaukee, at a place, and you guys don't have to play with such massive pressure out here. I think it's a great move for the Bucks. This is their time to shine, and this is probably, we'll see what happens if they make it deep Eastern Conference, maybe even win the darn thing, and get to the finals, and maybe give the Warriors a run for their money because we still think that they're the favorite out west. You could look at them being it's not the Boston Celtics that are going to be the kings of the East for the next few seasons. It's Milwaukee.
And Mirotic is still under contract for, I think, an additional 2 years. It's not one of those, we're going to trade for a guy for a 1-year deal and then hope him out.
I'm looking, and he's got, he's under contract, and let me see. going down.
He signed a 2-year, $15 million contract with the Bulls. Okay, so it looks like he is going to be a free agent the following year, if I'm reading this correctly.
Yeah.
Well, but Milwaukee has some cash if they don't want to go Middleton, but Middleton is arguably the next important player. I think Bledsoe was still under contract for another couple of years.
Right. Yeah, so he's let's see. He signed to September 2017, so 2017-18 season, 2 years. Yeah, so this is the final year of that 2-year contract. But so it's an expiring deal. However, the Bucks made a brilliant move. I'm glad, and I'm hoping they go deep in the playoffs because I actually really like them.
They're easy to root for.
Yeah, no, they are easy. I mean, they're a small town Milwaukee, and they haven't been good in such a long time. They've got a superstar in Giannis. I mean, it's all there. It's all there for them. Okay, so other than that, so biggest losers, what would you say?
Give me a second as I fully bring everything up.
Could you say Toronto for not really making that big of a splash?
No, I liked what Toronto did in getting Marc Gasol. I mean,
they get a veteran presence, even though
his game is also very different from Valanciunas.
Right.
Because they may look alike, but Valanciunas is like a 12-7 guy stat-wise. Gasol is a 15-13 4 guy, getting the assist in there as well. Plus, he can shoot a little bit on the outside, and he plays very hard in the paint. I like Valanciunas, but he's slow-footed compared to Marc. Marc's still near the tail end of his career, but he's dominant. And I think he's the perfect guy to have because who are the centers that the Raptors expect to see? Giannis and Embiid. And Embiid kind of gets a little soft if you press up on him a little bit. And that's the difference between Gasol and Valanciunas. Valanciunas cannot defend a center who can shoot outside in the 3. Marc can.
Yeah.
And you want to know how we've seen it? Because Joel Embiid eats up Hassan Whiteside every time he shoots outside.
So actually, that's a good point. It's a good point. That Toronto may have upgraded in the one spot that they probably needed to upgrade to combat Milwaukee and Philadelphia. Okay. Yeah.
So I like what they did.
Oh, okay. What about Boston not actually doing anything, or was it better for them to play it safe and not doing anything for now? Because
I mean, there's nothing that you can really do to make it better because on paper they should have. Remember, Gordon Hayward is supposed to be bad throughout this whole season just so he can be good for the playoffs. So we throw that away, right?
Okay.
That'd be my mentality, right? Because look, they got far last year without Gordon. This is just to make Gordon comfortable, get him into the swing of things in basketball shape. Jaylen Brown's playing more. Jason Tatum is a stud in the making, I feel. Kyrie's there. They still need a big man, but that's always been their problem. But just because they're like at 4, they're probably going to end up with a 4 seed, maybe the 3 seed if they get a little bit lucky. But there's still a competitive advantage for them. They're not like LA, who was like, listen, let's not bother about being 6, 7, or 8 and having to get eliminated in the first round. Let's right away. They could win at their positioning of the seating that they have. It's just what else could you really have had them done because they can't trade for Anthony Davis yet. So they have to wait that out. And I think that's ultimately where that conversation will go to when Cesar's here. So you have that situation. I mean, they could probably use a couple more shooters. If they were going to trade, they were going to trade for dudes that they're going to expect to lose, like Terry Rozier. Maybe trade him and get some people back because he's not going to get re-signed. Or Marcus Smart, who is a good kind of like bench guy, but he doesn't contribute much to the team except for being a tenacious defender. I don't think it's necessarily terrible. In my opinion, it's just there wasn't anything that you could really have done. They're kind of like stuck in the mud. You know what I mean? It's just like you're not going to die, but you're going to be dirty for a bit.
Okay. All right. And then finally, I guess I want to talk about Markelle Fultz finally moved on from Philly to Orlando.
That was actually the bad trade, if you ask me. That was the trade I was going to talk about. So, I mean, my initial thoughts on it is like, you don't know if the guy's going to play. Okay, I get it. Assuming he does play, he hasn't really done anything that's shown you that he can be a great player.
Right.
Now, mind you, basketball, it's hit or miss. It's just Orlando just doesn't seem to get it right. They win the trade if they can get their protected pick back. A second rounder doesn't do anything, and then losing Jonathan Simmons doesn't matter. But it was kind of like Philly. You really probably should just kept. The real loser was just Markelle Fultz, because you've been ostracized so badly, you got to get popped out. Orlando, they go through a bad.
He could be the big loser there, or maybe the fact that he's out of Philly, change of scenery in Orlando, not as much pressure. It might be beneficial to him, because remember when he got drafted, it's like, hey, you're coming into this team that's finally finished their process, and they just picked you number one, and you are going to be plugged in, and hey, you guys are going to be rolling, and never did. He could barely shoot a free throw correctly. It was just
ugly jumper.
Yeah, ugly jumper, just bad overall. He came into his rookie season. Hey, we just realized your shooting mechanics are all out of whack. Just before you get to the league, just stuff that even Lonzo Ball's was terrible, but he acclimated to the NBA, and Markelle didn't.
He was but he played, and Markelle didn't.
Right.
But
right.
That's a big difference. Orlando kind of loses a little bit because it's the same situation of you needed a point guard because you had Elfrid Payton, and you're like, okay, you're not good, so we get rid of you. So you're not filling that need. And also, Philly loses. And I'm going to tell you why Philly loses. Because you just shifted out or sent out another first-round pick that did nothing.
That's true.
Because the only two picks – because you know me, I hate the process. I thought the process sucked. As a fan, if I was a Philly fan, I would renounce it and leave. You tanked, and it didn't succeed because you got Embiid and Simmons out of there. So, okay, you have two star players. That's great. But Nick Stauskas, Jahlil Okafor, Markelle Fultz, Michael Carter-Williams.
Right. Even though he won the Rookie of the Year, but it probably was a weak year. So.
But that was the whole point.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we got him, but we don't need him.
Right.
We're going to get rid of him. You're telling me 4 picks that you got throughout the years.
So 6 or 7 seasons of tanking, and you only really came out with 2 guys.
And high lottery picks,
right.
mind you.
Right.
They were all high lottery picks. Markelle was a number 1 pick. Embiid was a number 3 pick.
Unlike what the Warriors did, because a lot of people don't realize the Warriors, all those 4 guys, they weren't number 1 draft picks, weren't number 2 draft picks, or even number 3 guys. What was Steph Curry? He was an 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, back in 2009 or something. It's been a while.
I think
now.
It's partially because he played at Davidson. If it was a bigger name, it would have been there. But I'm going to say it right now because I brought this up because I don't like the tanking process the way that they did it. You tank a little bit, that's fine, but it was for this whole section. So they got a Fultz with number 1 pick. They got Ben Simmons, Jahlil Okafor, Joel Embiid at 3, Michael Carter-Williams at number 11. It was just this everlasting pain that came in,
right.
And you accomplished something because you can build a team. You had to get JJ Redick and pay him money because let me tell you right now, every other team probably wouldn't have him as a starter.
No.
You had to go and trade for Jimmy Butler because you realized, holy crap, we didn't do this. So we gave up the 2. You gave up, and of course now the names are going to leave me, but you gave up Dario Saric, who was a first rounder that you got rid of, and then Covington, who was a guy that you actually developed from a second round.
Right.
You failed.
This is actually going to get – it's a topic for another week as far as the fact that the NBA is – there's no really middle ground in the NBA anymore now. It's either you're all in or you are completely all out and you're tanking, and that's the only place to be, really. Because being Miami Heat fans, we can tell you, this being where they are right now is not very fun in any way whatsoever.